good morning. It is that time again, of course. I'm in my running gear and it is time to do a fitness fragrance review. And I've been very much looking forward to this because I got this spray a couple of days ago. And of course, it is a Lush body spray, but it's the first time I've ever had a collaboration scent from them. What collaboration is it with? It's with Shaun the sheep. It is called Mossy Bottom. Yes, Mossy Bottom. Now, just looking at a little bit of the info with this one, it talks about it trying to smell like grass, smell like a farm, which doesn't sound like something I'd really want. And I'm really interested just to see what it gets today. If you haven't seen these reviews before, essentially, I do a morning workout. So I'm going to go for a run, walk to the gym, do a gym workout, walk back, all while reviewing this. And we look at 5 categories. So we look at its price/value for money, its versatility, how much you can use it in different situations, its projections, how much you notice it during a run, how much I'll notice it during my workout today. I'll also spray my room later to see how much it fills up a room, so if anyone came in, would they notice? Compliment factor, how much do I think this one's going to get compliments? And also just its longevity, so I'll spray mine before I go to the gym. We'll just see how strong it is once I've done my walk, workout and a shower, and then about 3 hours after, we'll see how much we can still detect the fragrance. And yeah, that's what we're going to do today. But before we do all that, we're going to talk about the note breakdown. What does this fragrance smell of? What's in this fragrance? What's it meant to represent? Because let's be honest, who knows what Shaun the sheep smells like? Okay, so Lush never do big note breakdowns, to be honest with you. They never do. And the other thing I've noticed with a lot of their collaborations, they tend to replicate scents they've already got. So my brother had one called Scooby Snaps, which is essentially a Scooby-Doo collaboration. Smell a little bit like Yog Nog. So yeah, what one does this smell? Does this smell like any of the fragrances in particular from them? Well, let's just go through the note breakdown. I'll tell you essentially what I can detect. So we've got bergamot for a bright, fresh citrus lift. You definitely get a bit of bergamot in this. It is a nice, uplifting, zesty start. It's not really heavy on the citrus, because then when we look at the rest of the notes, you'll tell what is actually more about it. So you've got the green grassy chord cut grass, leafy freshness, mossy, earthy base, so a damp forest floor, natural depth, and a bit of sandalwood. So what I'm detecting from this is that you do get that nice bright opening, a little bit of sweetness I'd say that bergamot's bringing as well, but that complements the bit of oak moss that they've got in here, and that grass chord. It's not like freshly cut grass. This, when you buy this, when you look at the description, it says it's meant to smell like freshly cut grass, but I do think that sweetness, a bit of freshness, a bit of zestiness coming from the bergamot does just tone that down. And then there's also sandalwood in this, which again, I've always said, woody notes in fragrances, they tend to help blend the fragrance together. They help just smooth off the edges, because sometimes Lush fragrances can be quite rough, particularly because they're just one natural note. They don't tend to blend too much in these, and that offers a soft, warm, grounding woodiness, and that slight masculine edge, which I really like this, because a lot of Lush fragrances tend to lean a bit more feminine. So does this smell like any of the other fragrances Lush have done? Guardian of the Forest, a little bit like that. And again, maybe there's a little pine in here, a bit of fir. It doesn't mention that. Again, those are chords. Chords, when you see like chord written in a fragrance description, fragrance note breakdown, that essentially means it's a number of sort of molecules mixed together. So it might be a bit of pine mixed with a bit of oak moss, and all those things might just join together, like basil as well, and that makes that a chord to represent the smell of grass. But don't think of this as a grassy fragrance. Yes, it says it's meant to smell like cut grass. To me, it's a much more citrusy one, much more uplifting than that. But it definitely has those green undertones, which you'd expect, because it is meant to represent the outdoors and being outside. So yeah, very much looking forward to reviewing this one today. Do the first 2 categories on my runs. We're going to look at price/value for money for this, and also its versatility, how much you can use it in different situations. It's chilly out there, it's very icy, so I better be careful. See you out there. Oh, it's definitely a little bit lighter outside this morning. It's nice. I can actually see where I'm stepping without slipping on any ice. So price/value for money for Mossy Bottom, the Lush body spray, the collaboration with Shaun the sheep. So you would have seen the price at the moment, it's £17.50 when I did this recording. That's what I paid for it, that's their 50% sale. But in general, normally it'll be £35. So, do I think that's good value for money? I think you need to just go for what the general price is here. £17.50 would be an excellent price. So let's start with scent quality. If I was blindfolded, what would I pay for this? What do I think would be a good price? I'd probably say, just based on its profile, £30 to £40. I'm not the biggest fan of green fragrances. I don't think they're as sophisticated as some. You know, you don't feel like I'm going to dress them up with a suit or anything. And they can be quite heavy in that case, so you don't really want to wear them in a summer's day or a casual situation. Just for yourself as much as anything, they can be quite harsh. So £30 to £40, it's kind of in the right range, I would say, this fragrance. It's certainly got the quality. I'm definitely detecting some fir or pine knell, and I think there must be some oak moss within that green sort of grass accord that they talk about. But it is a little bit more toned down. Now it's definitely got, and this is where I'm going to mark it down, it's definitely got some vibe of Guardian of the Forest, which they charge about, I think it's £32 for that one. So it's a little bit more expensive, and the reason is because it's a collaboration. And look, there must be a reason why they're more expensive collaborations. I don't know the exact reason, but the collaboration phrases they tend to be between £35 and £40, which is their top prices. But what irritates me with it is they are mimicking certain smells. As I mentioned earlier, my brother's definitely got a Scooby-Doo one that smells just like Yognog, and Yognog's like £8 cheaper for that reason, just because it's not the collaborations. There must be a reason behind that, but I feel like you're being ripped off a little bit there. Look, it's nice to get it as a gift if you're a fan of like Wicked the film or Scooby-Doo or Shaun the Sheep. It's nice to have that label, but you feel like you're paying £8-9 purely extra just for the label, not actually the scent. And I always think it should be the scent that takes priority, because that's what you're buying these things for. And for that reason I'm going to mark it down, just because it smells a little bit like Guardian Forest. It's a bit more wearable. I think there must be a bit of muskiness somewhere, and that bergamot's toned it down. But to say it's sort of £8, £7, whatever, more expensive sometimes for the same scent, just because it's collaboration, I feel a bit ripped off. So 7 out of 10 for this round. That's the only reason though. Same quality, I'll not really mark it down. It's just more that extra price just for the name, but there we are. Anyway, we're going to go on to versatility now. Okay then, so on to versatility. How much can you dress Mossy bottom up? Dress it down. Different ages, different occasions, different seasons, all those things. Well, kind of touching on what I said earlier, I find green phrases, and this is just me, this is my only personal opinion, quite hard to know when to wear them, when I choose them over other fragrances. Because again, in the winter I lean to more vanillic scents, and again, if it's a dress-up occasion, I lean more to boozy scents. And then in the summertime when it's warming up, I like more citrus and nice sort of fruity, uplifting type fragrances. So green fragrances for me tend to get a little bit lost in the pack. But that being said, in terms of right now being outside, what they do is they are quite aggressive and they can pack a bit of a punch. So I think in outdoor situations, certainly when green fragrances are best. And probably in that case, probably transition seasons, I think for me. When I'm outside doing sport jobs, or I'm walking into the woods, running in the woods, that's when I'd wear it. But I certainly wouldn't wear them for things like date nights, job interviews, or even in offices, because they can be quite aggressive. Now this one definitely, as I was saying earlier, is a little bit tamer than Guardian of the Forest, which is that Lush fragrance that it's similar to. But I think the bergamot and musk in this, there must be a bit of musk, I'm still saying that. I think definitely toned it down a bit, which makes it a little bit more wearable as you approach slightly warmer conditions. But yeah, I think other than that, look, this is actually a leaning more masculine. For me, in terms of versatility, this is definitely 60-65% masculine, and probably 35%, 35% of women I think would like this one. I think more 65-70% of men would like this one, just because it's that little bit more aggressive with that fur, which you expect in a lot of old school men's fragrances, not so much in modern ones. So really what I'm saying is versatility with this is quite limited. I don't think it's as versatile as some of the other Lushness, but what I do appreciate with this one is it actually smells like a fragrance. You don't think, and again, Lush phrases, and I think it's a great thing, they tend to smell a little bit foody, very gourmand. This one, I think if someone went by you, they're not going to think you smell like freshly cut grass, as it says. They're going to know this is a fragrance or not a food item or anything like that. And I do think it's probably one of those sort of ones where you probably need to be 25 and up, and someone who appreciates fragrances. You know, this isn't entry level to really get this one. So I'm going to say versatility is a 6.5. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just sometimes hard to choose it over other fragrances within Lush's own range, but also fragrances around this price range in general. I don't think the sandalwood, the woodiness in it, is enough to really give it that real versatility that sometimes you'd want in a fragrance. So I think you'd want to buy another one to sort of complement this. It's a 6.5 out of 10. But when we're back, we'll talk about projection. How much am I noticing it during my run? So we are back, workout done, managed to do 13 miles. It's time to spray my room. and then we're going to test for projection. So if you haven't seen this before, essentially I'm going to spray my room 5 times with this spray, head downstairs, have a cup of tea, talk about projection during my run. Then when we come upstairs, we'll see how much essentially the fragrance has filled up the room, how much has Mossy Bottom filled up my room. So if someone came in, colleague, friend, whatever, would they notice the fragrance? And that's what we'll do before we give the score on projection. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is also 9:10, so I'm going to do 3 sprays on each arm, and I'll be leaving the gym about 12:10. So we'll see how much this fragrance lasts after then. Right, time to have a cup of tea. My hands are freezing. Just needed this for my hands more than anything. So projection during my run. How much did I notice Mossy Bottom during my workout? Well, for the first hour, really strong. So when I was doing my first 2 categories at the start of the run, it was strong. It was really projecting. I didn't have to look for it. It was kicking off. And it wasn't unpleasant. Again, I mentioned it earlier. It's a sort of scent that is outdoorsy. It's an outdoorsy scent. And it was quite chilly today, so it wasn't something that was really going to be too cloying or anything like that. It was pleasant, and I go back to it. I think the bergamot is slightly lighter than the Guardian of the Forest. It just makes it a little bit more wearable. Not my number one for running. Again, I actually like on a cold day a sweet fragrance, and some are more of a freshy, but it was fine. It didn't feel uncomfortable or wrong for that occasion. Actually, by the end, I was a little bit disappointed. Didn't really notice it on the second half of the run. It is still there. It's still on my top. I can tell it's there if I put my nose into it, but it's not super strong. But again, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, this, because, as I said, I don't want it to be an aggressive fragrance. I'm not the biggest green fragrance fan, but if someone who is, you might just want that bit more bite, which Guardian of the Forest, the other Lush body spray, would give you for a little bit cheaper price. That being said, I think it's going to do okay on projection. It's not a super sweet fragrance. I tend to find super sweet fragrances fill up a room more, but green fragrances can be quite aggressive, and I think this one is going to be quite strong in its performance. I know Cologne Club, Aqua de Palma in their Cologne range, that's a strong green fragrance. It's one of their strongest from the Cologne line, and I do think this one will certainly be noticed. And we'll have this drink and we'll go up, and then we can give a score on projection. Up we go. Let's see how much of a Mossy Bottom we can smell. Sort of thing you wouldn't expect to say in 2026, would you? Mossy Bottom, and can you smell it? Right, top of the stairs, there's nothing. The only thing I am getting is where I did spray my arms for the longevity test later. I can smell that, but I know it's from my arm. Right. Okay, that is super strong. That is super strong. And actually, funny enough, I'm getting a bit more of that grassy smell. Not so much on me personally, but when it's in the air, I do get it. That's a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be. It's cold today, door's been open. People are going to notice that, and it's actually quite refreshing. Again, I go back to it. I'm really intrigued to know if it's got a musk note or something in it that's adding to that, or if it's just the bergamot, because there is this clean vibe to it, and I actually really appreciate it. Definitely is a more wearable version of Guardian of the Forest, and that's what I'm really getting for this. I love oak moss as a note. It's definitely got a bit of oak moss in it. It gives you that barbershop fougere vibe, which is certainly more masculine. And I think with this one, the Lush body sprays, they are super strong in terms of their atomizer. They spray real big mists. 2 or 3 sprays of this, maybe not 5 or 6 or 10 like I seem to do. You're onto a winner here. It's just maybe about getting the sprays right. I find that with green fragrances anyway, got to get the right balance. But I like that, and that's actually come out really well. I'm going to give it, just because I didn't notice it so much on the second half of my run. I feel hard. I am going to go 9 out of 10. I'm just going to mark it down just because I think if it's a little bit longer, I run it with a 10. In terms of filling the room, it is 10 out of 10. People are going to notice it. Again, also maybe mark it down and says it could be a little bit divisive, this sort of note, this sort of fragrance scent profile. But other than that, I said it's not an office scent. You get the sprays right, maybe I'm changing my mind. That's what I like with these phrases. When I get a new one, and I've not done an impression of it before, not had a preconceived idea, opinions change. So I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 there for projection. Head to the gym now. We're going to walk there. We'll talk about compliment factor. Do I think this is compliment getting fragrance? I said you can notice it. Will it be noticed for the right reasons? So yeah, we'll head down to the gym now. Okay then, so compliment factor for Mossy Bottom. Do I think it is a compliment getting fragrance? Well, look, any fragrance can get compliments at the end of the day. That's what they're there for. They're there to smell nice and hopefully garner some good attention. Some will do that better than others. This one, I don't think it's going to be a real I wouldn't buy it for compliments, let's put it that way. It's not that sort of fragrance. And for me, and this is going to sound really harsh, but it's a very pleasant scent. It's a very pleasant scent, and it's got enough projection that people can say good things about it. And if someone does like that scent profile, you will get noticed. So I think that's the first thing we'll say. That's the niceties out of the way. But I do question the motive of this one, really. And for me, I think the main motive for this scent essentially is, obviously, its collaboration with Shaun. It's a catchy name. But if this collaboration didn't exist, do I think this fragrance would need to be in Lush's body spray collection? No, I don't. And there's 10, 15, probably even 20 body sprays that I think are better than this one. Look, I always praise brands that do things that, you know, break the mould a little bit as well. And I can't really criticise Lush for doing that. You know, I appreciate the fact they do break the mould. But this one, it just, again, they're releasing so many body sprays at the moment that I think it's just overkill. And it's like me making videos. Look, I make them every day, but I'm not there to make money with these. I'm not there to be famous with these. It keeps me going. It motivates me during my workouts. And I hope you enjoy it as a side element to that. But obviously Lush are thinking, well, we want to make money from these items. And I just feel like they're releasing so many body sprays at the minute that they're losing a bit of that wow factor. And this one, to me, loses a bit of that wow factor as well. It's just like, what else can we make? What else can we throw out? How else can we make it a bit more quirky? But it's almost gone from being quirky to a bit tacky. And that's what I feel a little bit of this one. Look, it's not an unpleasant scent. Some people will say nice things, but this isn't one for a compliment factor. And let's be honest, that's the main reason people buy fragrances. And this is one of their most expensive ones. And it's really just that collaboration. So personally for me, no, I wouldn't get this for compliments, and I wouldn't pay that extra price that you have to pay to get this body spray for that reason. I think it just underwhelms in that sort of genre. But look, it's fine. It is fine. I sound really harsh there, but I'm hoping you understand what I mean with that one. So I'm going to give it, for compliment factor, 6 out of 10. Look, the scent is probably growing on me today. You know, I'm enjoying it more and more as I'm wearing it. But, you know, by the end of this bottle, I'm not sure I'm going to really want it. It's never going to be enough. That might just be me with green fragrances in general, but yeah, it's just not one to see. You're going to feel particularly comfortable wearing around people if you're not a huge fan of this scent. And I just feel that limited versatility means it's not going to get those big compliments. So yeah, 6 out of 10, but of course, if I get a compliment at the gym, you never know, I'll bump up to a 10. Workout done, no confidence. It's so busy up here today. The fragrance is still there, but it's not really strong. It's not as strong as I expected, which certainly made it more pleasant for my workout, but not expecting it to do too well with longevity. So it's time to have a shower. We'll see if I can still smell it after. It's 12:05. It is time to smell my arms and see if we can smell Mossy Bottom. It's been 3 hours essentially since I applied it. Okay, it's still there. It is still there, but it's much tamer. It does feel like you've kind of watered it down essentially, and it has changed a little bit of my skin chemistry as a result. That sort of zesty spiciness, which I think was coming from that bergamot that was in this, and maybe even a bit of the sandalwood, has definitely tamed now, and it's just that slight, very light green type scent. And yeah, I'd probably say it's about 30%. That on a normal day, if you weren't doing any exercise, you know, and it was a little bit warmer than this, I think it would probably get you through 6-7 hours, so pretty much most of the day, if not all of it, you know, as long as you're not getting too hot and bothered. It's really tough with this. Look, I've been really critical of this one today, and actually I feel like I've been a bit harsh with it, because it isn't a bad scent. It doesn't smell bad. And look, if this one was just its own fragrance in its own right, against Garden in the Forest from Lush, one of their other fragrances, I prefer this one, no doubt. I think it's just the fact it's a collaboration, and yeah, it's just maybe it's just a little bit different from what I expect from Lush. You know, it just doesn't have that same gourmand smell that I expect from them. But then again, if this was a Davidoff fragrance for say £20-30, or a, I don't know, police fragrance, those cheaper brands, I'd probably say this is pretty good. I think it's just the standard that they set. So yeah, it's probably more a collaboration thing and just expectation thing that's marked it down a little bit in my mindset today. But longevity isn't terrible with this. It's not terrible at all. Yes, it's not right up there. Certainly it's not a 10 out of 10. So I'm going to give it, we'll go 7.5, but it's not bad at all. I think for most people it'll do the job, and in some ways I'm quite glad it's not much stronger with this. Again, it's not my favourite type of scent profile. For the right person, you know, I'm sure it will work, and I don't think they'd want it to be any more than this either, because they're strong atomizers anyway, and it's got a pretty strong opening that you'll certainly get noticed in those first couple of hours if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, what we'll do now, we'll head back, I'll count up all the scores, and I'll give my overall thoughts. We are back. We are finally back. It is 20 past 1, and I have managed to do 38,667 steps today, all while wearing Mossy Bottom by Lush, the Shaun the Sheep collaboration fragrance. So, what was the overall score for the 5 rounds that we did? It's done better than I thought, just based on what I was saying today. It's actually got 36 out of 50. 36 out of 50. Look, that's good. I'm really glad as well, because I've been critical, and again, I'm not a massive fan of collaboration just in terms of the price. I think it's a good gift idea. You know, if someone who likes Shaun the Sheep or Wicked, which I'm going to review tomorrow, one of their fragrances, I think it's great. But when they're similar scent profiles, saying it's a little bit cheaper, or is essentially the same scent profile as some of their other fragrances, I feel like, come on, try and make it a little bit different at least, and then you can maybe charge that extra price. But that's just me. It's done well. Look, it's just, green fragrances are a little bit divisive at times. I think they are. As I said, they're not necessarily my favourite. I appreciate this one, and I think it's a much more wearable type of fragrance than maybe I was giving it credit for initially. It's become, you know, a lot lighter. It's certainly not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be able to almost have to wash it off today, and it didn't. The one thing it did really well on, though, and I really noticed it today, was its initial protection. Whether I was running straight away or doing the room spray test, that's when I really noticed this fragrance. And actually, I found once it dried down, once it became a bit more tame, the fragrance, it actually became a bit more pleasant. The grassy accord, or the, you know, the mossy accord, whatever they wanted to call it, that eased off a bit, and then you got a little bit more of that freshness maybe from that bergamot. And again, I'm saying that there's got to be a musk or a lavender in this somewhere. It feels like there is, just giving it a bit more of a clean sort of washing vibe in my opinion. But it is a nice scent. It's a masculine scent. It's a little bit different from Lush again. It's not as gourmand, it's not foodie or anything like that. This one smells like a fragrance. If you like green outdoorsy fragrances, I think this is a really good one to go for. So yeah, it's done okay today. 36 out of 50 isn't a bad score. Is it my favourite? No. Would I buy it again? Probably not. But if it was there on £17.50, if you can get it for that price, if it suddenly comes back up, that's great. I think it's £30 to £40. I think it's probably about right for its price range. But you do have to like green fragrances. If you're expecting like a sweet, mass-pleasing type scent, which you do get with a lot of the Lush fragrances, things like Sticky Dates, Yog Nog, Let the Good Times Roll, all of those, you're not going to get that with this. So just keep that in mind, essentially. This is a little bit of a change of pace from Lush, but again, it doesn't smell like grass. So if anyone's worried about that on the flip side, don't worry about that. It's much more wearable than that, in my opinion. And I don't think they should mention that. I don't think that's a good thing of what you should smell like. I don't think they need to mention it at all. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one today. As I said, I've got another one tomorrow. I can't see it. I think it's hiding there. Let's show you it now. Alphaba Throb, which I'm going to review. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've never seen Wicked. It's always on in London. I'll make sure I go watch it at some point, but I'm really looking forward to reviewing this one. I've only sprayed it once when it arrives, so yeah, I need to give it a bit more of a wear before I start my review tomorrow. But thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you later.